Welcome to the Assembling Inclusion podcast. On this show, we feature different programs, individuals, and initiatives focused on being more inclusive of individual needs. We invite you to learn right alongside us. If you want some additional resources or access to our courses, please visit our website or follow us on social media. But for right now, let's get right to the episode. Welcome to the second year of the Assembly Inclusion podcast. We're kicking off this new year by talking about Kaboose, a safe space for the autistic and neurodiverse community. This app is for individuals aged 7 to 30 and allows them to connect with age-appropriate peers in a safe, secure digital environment where they can find people who share their common interests. In this interview, we talked to Kaboose founder Michelle Ridsdale about how the app is currently being used to form friendships, as well as future developments for the app, such as job matching and mentorship. This app can help combat feelings of loneliness and social isolation and help people make genuine connections. So let's dive right in to learn more. Hello, and welcome back to the Assembly Inclusion podcast. Today, we're talking to Michelle Ridsdale, the founder of the Kaboose app. So Michelle, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to chat to you.
And I'm really excited to talk all about Kaboose, but just to get us started, can you just provide an overview of what Kaboose is and how it provides a safe space for the autistic and neurodiverse community?
Kaboose is an app in the App Store and Google Play, and as you said, it is an app that is safe for people to find friends, and then future releases will be about mentors and jobs as well. It is safe. We have verified identity when you sign up.
That's perfect. I like to hear that because that's always something, especially with, I worked with middle schoolers, so teenage years. So it's always nice to know that there's that verified safety component involved with the app.
Yeah, most people really want that. I mean, it does prove to be a bit challenging at times. People sort of get a bit nervous about putting their ID into apps, but we offer various ways of doing it. So try and be very flexible with people who want to sign up but don't want to put their ID in. They can do a call with me or something like that.
That makes sense. So before we dive into the inspiration behind starting the app itself, I did want to dive into the security a little bit since we're talking about it anyway. So what are the options that people have? Because I know parents listening are going to be like, that sounds great. Let me know about the security.
We can dive into the security because it was actually one of the founding principles I had when setting up Kaboose, to be honest. We asked that everyone only has, an account, that they are a real person. So you can't just create lots of different accounts. We've got a couple of people who've had a few false starts, so they've got a duplicate account, but they don't have different accounts. And so you put your ID in. If you're too young and don't have an ID, then we ask that parents put their ID in. That comes through to me, and then I can check that you are who you say you are, that you're of the right age group to, be communicating. And then once I've verified that, then the ID is removed. So we don't store IDs or anything like that. But still, we're in a world where there's a lot of hacking and IDs are stolen. So people do get a bit nervous, understandably. So I've often done calls with parents. I had a lovely family that I spoke to in Canada 2 weeks ago. It was their afternoon, early evening, and we just had a video call. And it was actually a great way to connect with families too and sort of get feedback on the app and those things. We also have the ability for parents to monitor the chat. So the parents can actually have the app on their device, and that way they can check in. I do that with my 2 kids. I sort of check in on what they're doing. And that's kind of a nice low tech way of doing it. If we can get funding, we'll actually use AI to monitor for cyberbullying and start to use and leverage that great technology that we have.
Oh, that would be a really great use for AI. I know that's a popular topic of conversation, at least in the world of education right now. It's a big thing. That's a really nice use for it to be able to seamlessly check through the chats for cyberbullying.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been talking about this for a year, but it's very expensive to put it into the app. So it's sort of sitting there waiting for, an investor who has the inspiration to help us do that.
It's a good long-term plan, though. While you're waiting, it's a good idea to have it in the back of your mind to have that. What was the actual
Exactly.
inspiration for setting up Kaboose? What really inspired you to found and create this app?
Yeah, look, I've been thinking of doing something with the social space for some time, social and work readiness. My background is in HR and I have an autistic son, and I could see there would be some challenges with work, but more importantly, unfortunately, he was bullied and socially isolated at school. Mainstream schooling here in Australia, has its flaws when it comes to inclusion. And he was very anxious. And he then sort of turned to social media to try and find friends. So he is one of these kids who, like all of us, wants a friend, a mate, somebody who really gets him. He tried Snapchats and Twitter and those things. And he actually ended up meeting up with someone who wasn't who they said. And that person tried to actually grab him. And that kind of led us into a very downward spiral. It's really sad when you see your kids without friends and all they desperately want is someone they can hang out with in their own way. It doesn't have to be in the neurotypical way. As someone said to me a few weeks ago, even just coming over and having snacks and playing a game on the couch or watching TV without having to talk is something that we all kind of like to do. So
Oh yeah, definitely. I think that's a commonality. I think even within the United States, there's a lot of inclusion barriers, which is why this podcast actually got started, because I was seeing it in the classroom. There's so many barriers. And
there's so many.
I was in the middle school age, like I said. So I was seeing the students going on to Snapchat and, well, now TikTok, but Instagram and trying to find people. And it was the same thing. They were finding people who were not their age group, and even though they claimed they were, and it's sad because they want the connection, and then people are taking advantage, which is totally wrong. When I found Kaboose, I was like, this is great. It's a great way to capitalize on the social media aspect of it that the kids love so much, but making sure it's safe and they're building authentic, real connections with people.
It is about being authentic and real. And I think that's what I see over and over again with Snapchat is that people aren't either who they say or their age is not right. But also they're looking for something different to many autistic or neurodiverse young people, whether they're kids, teenagers, or young adults. It's different. And so what we do is we match based on interest as well. That's the other aspect that's really important. Because if you're into cars or you're into animals or crocheting and you're meeting up with someone on Snapchat who has totally different interests, if they play football, for example, or soccer or whatever, like it might just not be the right match.
Yeah, you want to find somebody who matches with some of your hobbies that you have in common or activities. That makes sense.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right.
So how does that algorithm actually work? If I wanted to get started, for example, if I was a student and I wanted to get started using Kaboose, how would I walk through the process of setting up a profile and allowing that algorithm to kind of take over and match me with people who might meet my interests?
When you sign up and you can add an avatar or a regular photo, a nickname, and then there's a list of interests that are built in already to the app. So some are built in. It's not an exhaustive list yet. Hopefully over time, as we continue to grow, we can get people adding interests as well. And what happens is it's similar to maybe some of the dating apps that we all know, where you swipe to let's connect, or there's a button for maybe later. So we tried also to make it more conversational, not just ticking across in a very hard way. So feedback from the community was, we don't want to offend anyone. We want it to be fairly inclusive. When you see the cards of potential people, your interests highlighted in orange. Once we get, more people in the app and the algorithm is more robust, then it'll be better. But at the moment, my experience is that because we've got some verified and some non-verified, you can't actually see those people that are not verified at the moment. So the algorithm is still catching up.
Yeah, that makes sense. As that data set starts to build, I'm sure it'll become more robust, like you said. I love that it's not the check and the X. I like the maybe later instead of like a no. That's way more inclusive to me.
Yeah, it was something that was really important that we asked, various people, different ages and stages on what was going to work. We've got a new version that's designed, which will also allow for people to join existing tribes, like public tribes, because what you do when you've found some people that like lizards, you can create a lizard tribe and you can then put your matches into the tribe and talk to them. And in the future releases, we will have some sort of standalone public tribes, because some people also get a bit nervous about being the leader of creating a group or a tribe.
It's really nice and easy then for you to find people automatically who have that common interest as you.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, and we'll also have a list for you as well. So if people don't want to do that sort of swiping, then you can go to a list. We found that the list can be overwhelming for this cohort as well. Like when you kind of go in and you see a long list of people, it's a little bit tricky. Whereas if you're only shown a card and you can move them around, it's a little bit easier.
It's a little less overstimulating, I would think. Because I would think, it would be really overwhelming to see so many people, but one at a time. That's really nice to like chunk it just to look and focus on one thing at a time. I did see that on the website that Kaboose will give communication tips to kind of promote that socialization between members. So how does that work within the app?
We haven't built that yet, but it is coming. What we're hoping to do is partner with a speech therapist or a social skills therapist to help build content. But we're also thinking that probably AI can help us do that too. So the good old AI there, we do want to leverage that, even just to give some tips on, starting a conversation with a potential friend for the first time. Maybe you're sort of struggling with how to respond to a particular thing. And then over time, what we'd like to do is have conversation modules, if you like, to help with the job piece, or asking your boss for something, or, asking your teacher for something. Like maybe there's other things that our members would want help with over time.
I like the idea of that. I think that'd be something that'd be really cool, especially because it's like that authentic practice then, but it's not a real practice. Like you could go over how to ask your boss for something in particular, like an accommodation or something, without having to actually go and do it.
Yeah, that's right. And just small sound bites rather than major workshops for people. And if it is built into the app, then they can do it themselves, as you say, at home. You can practice it over and over. You don't just have to go to a class once a week and practice it and then forget about it. And maybe over time, if things are going well, we might actually be able to get some of the social skills class material in. If someone's doing a social skills group or they're going to speech therapy, there's a way that we might be able to link that.
Oh, that would be really great. I'd love to see that. The communication tips in general, that's something that could also be overwhelming when entering a space. So it's great that you're working on building out even just the tips, just to say like, here are some ways to get started. Because I think that's intimidating sometimes to get started. Like, what do I say to somebody? I know we have this in common, which is nice because that takes a little bit of the legwork out of figuring out what you have in common. But like, how do I start a conversation? So that's nice that you're considering building that in.
Yeah, I think so. I think because that's the hardest bit. And even, when you're older, it's sometimes really hard to initiate those conversations.
Oh, yeah, it can be challenging across the age group. So it's great that that's going to be an option. So how can people who are on Kaboose take those connections that they're making through the app and translate that in real life? Are there users that are meeting up with each other in real life because they've met through the app? What does that typically look like?
We've got quite a lot of users in the US, which is very exciting for us. We seem to be getting quite a lot of small communities happening around the US. And here in Australia, it's a big country too, so people are spread out. We don't have a way of doing it in a structured way yet. And we don't currently have like a Snapchat map or anything so you can see where people roughly are. We do intend to build that out as well so people can roughly see where others are. And we'll try and encourage that if it's safe to do so. We don't want people going off and meeting up if parents haven't agreed to it. For the older teens or young adults, then yes, I think how cool would it be that you actually can meet up and go and do the activity that you both enjoy doing. And we'll try and sort of look at how we can make that fun. So maybe get a score for the number of meetups you've done so that people can actually practice in real life, but again, it's not for everybody. Some people actually do like the online socials and having friends that are online, and that's okay too. I think, part of being sort of inclusive is actually to accept that everybody likes different things. They like different friendship styles, and not everyone wants to catch up in person.
Oh yeah, and that's totally acceptable. I like that you went the inclusive route to say that you could kind of pick either, and you could find people then who like either. I'm sure, especially now post-pandemic, I'm sure people are more comfortable just meeting up through Zoom or another web conferencing tool, or it's so easy to play video games in real time in different parts of the world. So it's just so easy to do that. You don't have to be in the same region to find somebody.
It is nice. Technology has allowed us to do some really great things, and I think really embracing that is great.
Oh, definitely. So you had mentioned it earlier, and I did see on the website too, that you, aside from just friendships and building connections, that you wanted Kaboose to also potentially lead to jobs or recommendations for positions. I'm assuming that's for the older, obviously the older users.
Yeah.
How does that work?
When we build it, it will be an option. Some people will have social only and some will take the other options. We've just launched our mentoring program. And so we've got a handful of people doing mentoring now. And we see that mentoring can either help towards job readiness, or it can help if you're in a job and you're having some challenges with accommodations or with your manager, or those sorts of things. The actual job matching is pretty exciting. So we've talked to quite a few companies who are interested in this concept where if you're looking for a job, you might put down some of your key interests, and then the company, the employer, would also put down some of their key interests, not so much around skills to start with, just interests. So, for example, if you like cars, then maybe mechanics or something like that might be an option. Or if you like animals, maybe there's animal shelters and or zoos or those sorts of things. My son loved security cameras for a while, and so he was watching security cameras online, and so then he got a job in the security camera area. And so just thinking about it a bit differently, if you are a member, you might see a match with, a particular employer for a job, and you could add them to your list and therefore chat to them. And once you get to that connecting piece, then the recruitment process would take over from there. But with some guidance, given my background in HR, I would want to be working with organisations to make sure their hiring process is inclusive and there's adjustments where necessary as well.
I was going to ask about that, whether or not there was going to be any connection with their HR and you as the app. So that's great that there is going to be that connection to make sure that their hiring process and their environment in general for the company or organization is inclusive.
I think that's the thing. The jobs piece is quite a large piece. If you break it down, there's the presenting opportunities to our community, then there is the assessment piece, then there is the onboarding piece, and then there is the general inclusion, belonging piece. And I think there's kind of a journey there, and working out where Kaboose can be most effective, I think, is really important.
I really like even just the piece of being able to connect your interests to other companies or fields that might fit you for a job. I feel like so many of my students had no idea what they wanted to do. And so just being able to say, like, I know you gave the example of your son, like the security camera aspect, like, here's your interest, here's potential jobs that you might be interested in. Even just that piece, even without even matching them to the employer for a position, just to show them that these jobs exist, I think it's really great.
I think so. And even just doing some mentoring with some of our members, you can see just recently one of them said they're not really happy in their current role, and being able to really explore what their interests are, what their interests were at school, where do they feel most kind of happy, I guess, and being able to really just uncover that makes all the difference, I think, to people. We all ultimately want to feel happy in what we're doing.
Yeah, I think so. And this is a great way to find an authentic, meaningful position that somebody would like to be in. You had mentioned the mentorship piece within that. So correct me if I'm wrong. So I'm assuming then if you're being matched with a mentor, you're being matched, then it could be an older user and a younger user matched together. It's just purely for you have something in common, like an interest in a specific field or something like that. How does that work?
So again, it's a future matching feature. We'll ask, people who want to be mentors to come in, and they'll go through a screening process. Obviously, we don't want just anybody talking to our young people. And then if you're looking for a mentor for a job, or you're looking for a mentor for life skills, or you're looking for a mentor just because you're struggling with maybe your kind of executive function in the home or something like that. So you can choose the type of mentoring that you want and then be matched. Anybody can sign up to it. I imagine too, it will be more of the young adults that take it up. At the moment, they're all being matched with me because I'm the sole mentor available. I haven't hired any mentors yet, but that is something I'm really keen to do. So if any of your listeners are interested in doing mentoring, then that is something that is being launched at the moment.
Oh, that would be awesome. I'll make sure to put your general email for Kaboose in the show notes. That way, if anybody's listening and they are interested in being a mentor, they can just send you an email and make the connection.
Yeah, great.
That would be great.
Well, I think if you think again about this sort of life cycle, social, meeting friends and having your social skills, practicing those through to mentoring ultimately will help our community find work and be ready for work. And with the underemployment and unemployment so high in this community, our aim is to help in some small way to improving that.
And it just has to be really nice to connect to somebody who you can relate to, who's a little bit older than you and has been through the experience of getting a job or asking for something at work or dealing with even just making friends at a young age who can just impart their wisdom. It has to be really nice to have that type of connection.
Yeah, exactly.
So overall, what do you think have been the biggest successes of Kaboose so far? How do you think that the app has made an impact in the autistic and neurodiverse communities?
Well, we only launched last year and it was very nerve-wracking up to the launch. We did have to have a name change in there. There was a challenge with the name, but it's just been so amazing to see how many people are embracing it from all over the world. Each day when I log onto my computer and there is a bunch of people to verify, or, even people who've downloaded it, just seeing where everybody is around the world is just really encouraging. And we're still early stage, so there's a bit of a way to go, but it's showing really positive signs and seeing just the activity in the back end.
I didn't realize it had only been a year. You've both grown considerably since then.
Yeah, we have over 1,000 people around the world. 40% are in the US and Canada and 40% here in Australia, and the rest are in Europe, UK. So it's still very early stages, but slowly getting the word out there and getting people on. And the more people we can have on, obviously, the better the experience for our community. We're working hard to improve some of the features at the moment. So the software development team are working hard to get some bugs fixed and build some new things, make it a bit easier and a bit prettier for people who like sort of the visual element. And it's really exciting times.
And it sounds like there's a lot of different things going on right now, which is really great. So I know you had mentioned before that long-term you were looking to kind of build out with some of the AI piece with the algorithms and things like that. But what are some other plans for expansion and growth that you have on the horizon for Kaboose?
Well, obviously all the things we've been talking about. At the moment, we only have the friends matching and the mentor matching is done offline. So we're hoping that we can get investment to put the AI in to build the new design with the public tribes, do the job matching. There's some other things I think we could do matching on, like housemate matching and those sorts of things as well. Really this community, you're looking for someone who gets you, and that's sort of all through your life, really. It doesn't change just because you turned 18 or turned 25 or, even when you're older, more mature adult. And the other thing I'm really excited about is that a lot of people are wanting to come on even outside of the age groups we've started with. So originally we started just with the 13 to 16-year-olds. That quickly went into the adults up to 30, and now I have a long wait list of over 30s as well. And people sort of say, oh, well, why can't we do that now? And it's just a little bit about the technical side at the back end that needs to be fixed, just to make sure that we can allow the matches to be safe. So that's all on us to do. That's part of the growth. Our aim is to have a thriving global community where we can really start to connect people and remove the barriers to social belonging.
And I think the fact that you even have a wait list for some of the older users really just shows how needed this app is and how unique it is, because they're on a waiting list to get on it. It really shows that it really has the potential to create a huge community, because clearly it's in a very high demand.
I think that quite often autistic and those who identify as neurodiverse are sort of bundled up with other disabilities, and I think everyone needs a space. It's not, that one is more important than the other. It's just making sure everyone has their space where they feel a sense of belonging.
I like that. I think that's a really great point. There is a lot of grouping together of the disability community. There's so many unique needs, just from person to person, from disability to disability. So I like that you have that kind of focused space that people feel like they can go to, that's built for them and people like them, and to meet people like them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Michelle, for being here with us today and telling us all about Kaboose. I'll link your contact information as well as the website and the link to the Apple Store and the Google Play Store where you can download Kaboose in the show notes. So everybody should make sure they take a look at that. And I want to thank you again so much for sharing with us today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and letting me tell my story about Kaboose.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Assembling Inclusion podcast. I hope the information in this episode taught you something new, gave you a new idea, or showcased a new perspective. If you liked the episode, feel free to leave us a review or comment. If you have a recommendation for an individual or an organization who would make a great guest, you can message us on Twitter or Instagram, or send us an email at assemblinginclusion@gmail.com. See you next time.